Welcome to the UpLevel Podcast, Syd.
Hi, Christy. Great to be here.
I'm really excited that you're here because we've been able to spend time together in the classroom in a really unique way. You've been so generous with your time, with your expertise, with your passion for coaching and leadership development in serving your fellow colleagues at Lululemon. Thank you for your contribution that you've been making.
Yeah, thank you. It's I'll say that, Lululemon is, and I've been with the company for 9 years. So I truly have, through the organization and through the tools the organization has created access to, at least for me. It's truly transformed my life and the work that I want to get up to. So I'm incredibly grateful for all of the humans I've gotten to come in contact with, including you. So it's been great.
Well, we were kind of geeking out the other day. We started getting into all of this stuff, right? And I was like, just come on the podcast so we can hit record to this conversation because others are going to want to tune in. And you're up to some really cool work. So let's start with, as you know, we're in the season of exploring right relationship. Today's UpLevel. That's the big question. Right. So in your world, how are you defining this term right relationship?
So there's a couple things. I would say, like, in the world, if you could just elevator pitch, what I believe, really what I stand for, is that I believe in the power of conversation, the magic of conversation to change the world that we live in, one conversation at a time, starting with the conversation we have with ourselves. And it is from this relationship we have with self that everything else evolves and transforms, including the relationships we have with other people. It really is defining what is possible for our lives and for our relationships. And I've really seen that in my work at Lululemon as a business owner, as an SM, as a coach, and as a consultant in showing other people how to build, these high-performing teams that not only support folks in fulfillment, right? Fulfillment as a radical act, but also that they get to decide what well-being looks like for themselves because they're doing the work to sort of excavate and discover what is going on internally, and how that affects everything else they do.
So in the context of running a business and leading a team, how does this concept of right relationship show up in your world?
So really what's top of mind for me with my team right now, and I'll speak just through like the lens of an organization. So in an organization, you're going to have policies that support in defining company culture. They define in how we interact with each other, behavioral expectations. And so there are those components that, of course, are incredibly important to team building and a group environment to make sure that it is inclusive and high performing. But then there's also, and I think we talk about this less in business, but it's something I think that we really should be talking about more, really is this social contract of what sets us apart is how we treat each other. And so it's this additional layer from these behavioral expectations that can be set by an organization to how do we want to function as a team? How will we engage when things get difficult? And how will we repair when we've missed the mark? And so within, integrity, the integrity of I am who I say I am. I do the things I say I'm going to do. And I clean up the messes I'm involved in, whether or not I meant to make the mess in the first place.
Yeah.
And then also psychological safety. I talk about this I have a coaching client inside Lululemon who has shared, I really want to have, I really want my team to feel supported. And so we're in this conversation around, well, how do you build psychological safety on the team? And I really think that it is really leaning into the social contract of how we treat each other, and really how we navigate staying above and below the line.
Okay, this is great. Let's pull this out for other business leaders listening and also coaches who are bringing this kind of work into organizations. If you're going to pull out like the skills and the competencies, ways of being around creating psychological safety, how would you go about that?
Yeah. So there's a couple things. Number one, and this concept of psychological safety actually comes from one of Simon Sinek's books. I believe it's Leaders Eat Last, where he talks about essentially, and if you're a visual person, you essentially have two circles. You have the inner circle, which is where the team is. And so the team is sort of like in between these two. And internally are all of the things that can go on in a team that threaten what the team is there to do. So it's the personal dynamics. It's anything that could be going on in the company, and anything that could just be going on in the team that ultimately is a distraction from what the team is getting up to. Those are things that we can control, right? The things that we as leaders need to be really invested in managing well. And then you have the outer circle, which are all the things we really can't control, but will still affect whether we can hit the outcome that we're looking for. So in business, that may be sales. So we'll just use sales.
Yeah.
So at Lululemon, it's consumer behavior. It's the economy. It's what was the press release that just came out about our Align pants, good or bad? It's the brief on our newest community event, whatever it is that's driving traffic into the store or keeping people from purchasing another brand. And so those things we may not be able to be in our control, but we are able to create a environment, number one, like I said, of designing the alliance. And we talk about this a lot. And I'm sure you've talked about this on the podcast many, many times. It's designing the alliance of like, what are the rules of the game? How will we engage with each other? Yeah. And then how will we engage when things get difficult? And so outside of this like model of, what we're really focusing on of the threats that can occur inside of a team is teaching your team how to navigate conflict.
Yes.
Conflict is to be managed, not eliminated.
Love that. To be managed, not to be eliminated.
Conflict is to be managed, not eliminated.
Because that's just the world we live in.
It's just the world we live in. And at the same time, like Christy, you and I have not necessarily ever been in a conflict conversation, right? Like but in the event that we ever did, which would be fine.
Yeah.
You have an entire universe inside of you. I have an entire universe inside of me. There is no way that we are ever going to agree to the degree that every single thing that we've ever heard, thought, and said is going to be aligned 100%. It's just not, that's not a reasonable expectation.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing.
Yeah.
And then the second thing is when we are in conflict, it is more important, or if I want the relationships that I want, right? And this is from a personal perspective and also from a professional perspective. I always have to be willing to set aside my stuff in order to extend the olive branch. And if I am radically responsible as a leader in setting the example of always being the one who apologizes first, who cleans up my mess first, who takes responsibility first, that sets a precedent in my team that says, I not only work for someone, but I know the expectation is that I need to go create, repair, and resolve this without needing to involve anyone else. And that makes a huge difference in conflict resolution, knowing that you're on a team of people who, even if you do get into a tiff or you have a disagreement or things feel like maybe they start to get personal in a conversation or in a debate, that you know that you can always go back and repair, that you can always reapproach. And so really teaching folks how to lean into some of those skill sets is, I think, one of the most important things I do in my role as a leader.
I'm just so excited because, this is what we do all day, every day. And like, you're such a beautiful example of the work in real time and then the ripple effect of that, So is there a story you can share to really bring this to light? Obviously, holding confidences with specifics and names, but just to really illustrate to people how you would bring in these tools and have a conversation like this so that when the conflict hits, it's just part of the business versus it's this thing that gets dramatized and, taken out of context.
So, one thing I will say is there's been I am in my store, right? So just for context, I'm running a $20 million store, one of our top 50 stores for Lululemon.
Congratulations.
And so, yeah,
wow.
so fun. Yeah, high volume is its own beast, and it's incredibly fun, and I love it. I operate always with power. So I have to be really mindful of that, right? So I'm the head honcho in the building. There's always a level of it's going to be the most difficult to approach me. So one of the things that I do is I make myself the safest example, or actually safe is, I don't know, safe is a word that I'd really like to use. I create an environment where people can practice being courageous with me first.
Woohoo! I create an environment where people can practice being courageous with me first.
Yeah.
Yes, leaders go first.
Leaders go first. Yes. So that means that I have to be the most gracious, even when feedback is terrible. Right. So I have been on the receiving end of terrible feedback, of people making it personal. And obviously boundaries, right? Like there's like, hey, like you're allowed to have this emotion. You're allowed to be upset with me. You're not allowed to treat me with contempt, right? So being really, really clear on like where the boundary is and where my lines are to make sure I'm not violating any of my own values and boundaries. But I really don't deal as often with like anymore in my career and with my team now with very many of those. However, when I first got to the particular store that I'm running, it was not performing from a cultural standpoint the way that it needed to. And it had been like this for a couple years and for a number of reasons. But I really was brought in to shift the culture. I had out incredible scores from an inclusivity perspective, also had run a great business, had great business results and team engagement results at my previous store. And I was ready for the next challenge. So high volume was the next thing for me. And I had a relationship with someone who at the time was one of my managers, one of my leaders in the building. And this leader and I really struggled to build a working relationship that felt really resonant. It was characterized by conflict. It was characterized by sort of that gotcha moment. And where it often felt like they were looking to catch me making a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that I really had to settle into my leadership in was that, and I think this is true in personal development, not just leadership, but leadership will bring it out, because I think leadership is personal development, but we can go on that tangent another day.
Yeah. I agree.
Is I don't get to look good being a beginner or learning something. Like that inherently, I have to set that ego part of the learning process down.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's true in anything that we want to achieve, right? Whether you want to start your own podcast or you want to have your own business or you want to be a leader, like you don't always get to look good while you're doing it, while you're making the thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so after a number of months of conflict with this person, and I went back and forth with myself a lot around like, how am I going to navigate this relationship? How am I going to get this person to see what it is that I'm doing? Because I knew that they saw value, but they sort of were a fence sitter, right? When you think of like a change model, they just sat on the fence. Sometimes they were in it and sometimes they weren't. And so really what changed was my perspective, knowing that I can't expect them to change. I'm going to have to change first in order for this outcome of this relationship to shift. And I considered myself, what if this person actually really does want to learn from me? And I have actually held them in contempt. I am actually the problem. And that the reason that I'm getting this resistance from them is actually a reflection of my own resistance, which, as within, so without. But that was a breakthrough for me.
Yeah.
Where I said, I don't know if I have been kind with this person the way that I could have been. I could be kinder. I could be gentler. I could be more gracious. And this person isn't going to respond to some of the things I know to do. And so I am going to have to learn how to lead them differently. And am I up for the challenge or not? And that's really the decision that I made, is like, am I willing to continue the way this relationship is going?
Mm-hmm.
Or do I need to make a radical shift? And am I willing to do whatever it takes? And ultimately the answer was yes. And I ended up having this conversation with this person about a year and a half into the role. So we had worked alongside each other and things were fine, but they're not nearly the relationship that we have now. And I remember sitting down with them and I had told them about another leader I had encountered that taught me a lot, but taught me because I didn't love who they were being in their leadership. And I had talked about this person a lot because of the impact that they've had on me, and who I want to be as a leader now. And they said to me, I don't want you to be this person for me. And really what I heard was this unmet need and a deep desire to shift the way that we were working and the way that we engaged.
Wow.
And I don't know if I was listening to them when I first was working in this building with this team.
Mm-hmm.
And so that truly shifted everything for me. And, a couple of conversations before that, I had set a boundary with them of like, hey, I don't have to be perfect to be excellent.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I do expect that when I make a mistake, that you are not going to hold it over my head because I'm not doing that for you.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the day, there is a dynamic of I am your teammate. The hierarchy in this building exists for a reason, partially because of, accountability, but also because our roles are different. What I need you to do allows me to be able to do my job fully and live into my role description.
Right.
And, so on and so forth for everybody in the building. So the hierarchy is less about power and more about making sure operationally this machine runs well so that we can do the other stuff that is leadership development and developing competencies so people can get where they want to go. All that to say,
yeah,
this person actually ended up promoting underneath me. And we have a very different relationship now. And we actually both, with our team and with other teams, will use the example of the relationship and the conflict that we had with each other.
So good.
As a example of this is what happens when you stay at it. This is what happens when you keep coming back and being like, it's not working. Let's make it work. This didn't work either. Let's try again. And I do think that you have to be willing to do whatever it takes for as long as it takes in order to get what you want, whether that's a relationship or a job or the glory, or even, the relationship with yourself, like willing to come back to the drawing board and say, this didn't work, let's try again.
Yeah.
And the resilience and the courage, truthfully, that takes. I'm incredibly proud of this person. And I'm so grateful because truthfully, I hope that they learned something from me, but they gave me a gift. And and that learning was very painful in some cases.
Yeah.
But it was also an incredible gift, and I'm incredibly grateful.
It's a beautiful story. There's so much in the context of right relationship for us just to underline here. And I know for me, one of the biggest challenges in my challenging dynamics is the piece that I heard you do here, which is take responsibility for your role in it. I know I can get very stuck in, well, it's working for everybody else. Like my way of leading, my way of being, like, what's your problem? Right?
Totally. 100%.
Okay. And I'm sure we have a lot of listeners and that, if I extrapolate that onto like the world stage, right now, that's part of this like polarization is we start to lose our ability for the nuances. And even though maybe my style works for 90%, but there's that one person where it's not, my responsibility is to, like what you did, listen more deeply than what I'm normally listening, listen even more attunely, receive the tough feedback, the thing that maybe I know what I do is I avoid hearing the thing that I know, like I'm doing something, not to my greatest self in those dynamics. And so having that mirrored back, having the courage to hear that tough feedback. And in the coactive leadership model, we have a construct we call STAY. STAY. And that's what I heard you do in this dynamic is you stayed and you stayed and you stayed and you stayed. And you ended the story with like, this is now one of the, one, it's created so many learning moments for both of you as you get to share the story, but it also sounds like the relationship so much more intimate because you were willing to stay, to take responsibility, to do the deep listening, to have the courage to receive the feedback, give the feedback, and the resiliency to, go along the path. Because a lot of people do choose to say, I'm going to blow it up.
Right.
I'm going to write it off. I'm not going to engage or participate. And I think right relationship is being in it for the long haul.
Yeah.
And with boundaries, I say this, like there's some relationships that it's not safe. There's harm being done. That's different. But in this context that we're speaking about, in these working relationships, like how can we see them as curriculum to develop our leadership potential, our leadership abilities?
Totally.
It's a curriculum. It's a workshop you didn't think, you didn't know you signed up for.
Correct. And what also and what I learned, especially from this team at this time, like really when I took them over, and I knew this intelligently, but I don't know if this wisdom was embodied in me as a leader, the way that it is now, is that when people when they're not necessarily conflict, but when people have complaint, when they're in a place of complaint, when they're bringing to you where maybe I didn't miss the mark, but the organization has missed the mark, or they're having a poor experience, whatever it is. If I make them out to be a problem, then I never actually get to address the unmet need that they have trusted me with in that conversation. And then on the flip side, if I trust that this person is sharing with me an unmet need, and I am able to actually expand my listening, right? Those levels of listening that we love to talk about in the coaching containers, then I can hear what they aren't saying. So it's not just like I had a conflict with my manager or my teammate. It's that I'm actually not feeling seen or heard or valued. Or I have seen leaders make these decisions and I really value transparency, but I don't know how to talk about that. And so that is part of my role as a leader, is not only in going back to make sure that I've actually heard what the unmet need is so that I can support in them solving for themselves, and obviously taking away what I need to solve for in the larger group dynamic if needed. But also that I can actually just be a partner in them solving for themselves what it is that the original challenge was, or the original gripe was. And I think that has also made a huge difference in my team trusting that something will be done. And I don't make a guarantee on how fast something will get fixed, but I do guarantee that something will change if we choose to change.
Yeah.
And they've seen it in cycles, right? So like maybe if they haven't been around for 3 months, they won't see it, but in 6 months they will, in 8 months they will, in a year they will. And so it's so funny to see the people on the team who have been with me through this journey and be like, wow, I can't believe how far we've come. And I said, yes, this is like turning the Titanic, not like turning a speedboat. But truly, like I said, is that in the conversation, I shared earlier, this person had maybe an unmet need, and also probably things that didn't have anything to do with me. But that doesn't actually matter in the dynamic between them and I. What matters is that I am always returning to a place of, I am choosing to be trustworthy. I'm choosing to be gracious, because that is who I've said I am as a leader. Yeah. And that's my integrity. That's something that I can go to sleep with at night.
That's you being in right relationship with yourself.
Exactly.
You started this off, like right relationship starts with oneself.
Correct.
Who am I?
Starts with integrity.
What are my values? How do I embody them and show up in the world, and recover back to them if I fall off? Like that's what I really hear you saying.
Yeah.
I know you have a sporting background, and I want to I want to hear how this has informed your leadership.
Yeah, it's a good question. So I'll just give just a brief history. So I am originally from Southern California. I ended up playing softball for the University of Houston, go Cougs, and was, I loved my time as an athlete. I think, playing any college sport, any division is such a privilege. And, the competition you see at Division I is incredible. It's also incredible at all divisions. So I'll just want to name that because I've called games for Division I, Division II, or Division III. So we'll table that for just a second. But either way, the college experience and being a college athlete, it really is something that is nothing short of transformational. And I do think that sport in so many ways teaches us some of the skills that you and I have talked about, Christy, which is like the conflict resolution, how to be with difficult feedback, but also how to be with ourselves when we fail, because that is a really tough, that's a tough learning and skill to lean into. As someone who is naturally confident, I don't make very many mistakes. So when I do make a mistake, it is like, even now, it is like, ooh, there's like something in me that just like tightens, and I have to like actively be with myself and really release. And so I offer that because I became a coach because I believed I was the coach that I needed when I was an athlete. And
so sweet.
The reason that I wanted to be that person for myself was for a couple reasons. Number one, I saw my teammates, or in holistic college experience, I saw that there wasn't a gap being closed in the lessons we were learning on the field and the lessons that we were learning in some of our career development. We had some of those workshops, but we really needed someone to bridge the gap in some of the practical skills that we were learning. Like some we've already referenced. And that was missing in my college experience. And I think that it's incredibly important. The younger you learn those skills, the better our communities and the world that we live in can benefit from people who are regulated and know how to resolve conflict and know how to repair their own relationships.
Amen.
The other thing that I saw was really what it was like, and I took this in my approach to business, is nobody's talented enough to be a jerk. And I saw coaches in my time as an athlete change the standard for young women who were incredibly talented, but really did not meet behavioral expectations on our team. And that was incredibly frustrating as someone who obviously wanted to play, wanted to be there, worked hard, did what I needed to do on and off the field in order to contribute to the greater community within the University of Houston, greater community of Houston, but also to represent my program well. That really mattered to me. And that wasn't always the standard that was held. And that was incredibly frustrating. And what I did see is that when that standard was held, those programs really succeeded. Because they knew there was a line that was not crossed and people stayed above the line. And that really is on the coach, on the person who's leading and driving the ship, to make sure that every single time that something is happening, that you address it, that you don't let anything slide, because culture is created by what you tolerate. And I saw that firsthand as an athlete. And a very tough learning to be in an environment where you're actually not totally sure what the standard is, because it changes depending on who the spotlight is on.
Let me just underline that. Culture is created by what you tolerate.
Culture is created by what you tolerate. And you see this in a number of different arenas outside of athletics. I'm not a parent. I'm not a parent. But I imagine you see it in parenting.
Yeah.
Because I am a kid. I am the kid of parents who did not let us slide. The standard never moved. And obviously parenting is very complex, and I won't go there, but it's applicable in many different settings. And
so any ecosystem, and
in any relational dynamic, what I allow myself to experience, or how I allow other people to treat me, and even how I choose to interact with something, that moves the line up or it moves it down.
Yeah, say a little bit more about above the line, below the line, and
Yeah, yeah.
you're speaking to it.
Yeah. So when I think of like above the line, below the line, so like the line of we'll say culture, in the same vein we're talking about, or we'll say it integrity, right? The line is your integrity. It's the agreement that you make. So when you're above the line, you are operating in a place where I am operating in a place that honors the integrity, or it honors who I say I am. I do the things I say I'm going to do when I say I'm going to do them. And I repair and clean up the messes I've made if I make them. Okay. And then below the line is really where you have the places where you allow yourself to give into an excuse. Oh, well, I said that because I was feeling this way. Or I made that decision because of this circumstance that's happening in my life. Really, it's a visual model of where do we snuggle up to our stuff and allow ourselves to come down here? And then where do we actually make a decision to clean up where we've missed the mark and then come back up above the line? And I try to stay away from a dichotomy of like good and bad, because like obviously life is more complex than that.
Yeah, for sure.
But when you look at this model of like, okay, wait, where did I actually miss the mark? Did I go below the line? Yeah, probably. Internally or externally. It doesn't matter whether I shared with you the petty thought that I had.
Yeah.
I went below the line. What matters is that I make a decision to bring myself back up.
Yeah.
Of like, I'm going to give myself the moment and take a deep breath, and then I'm going to come right back up.
We call that in like coactive leadership, we call that like recovering, recovering above the line. And that's really the practice of right relationship. From my perspective. It's because we are going to go below the line. It is human to do so.
Yes. Inevitable.
And can we practice minimizing the amount of time below the line and our recovery above? Like that's really the practice.
Yeah. It's closing the gap between stimulus and response, 100%.
Yeah.
And when we talk about it, this is what I mean when we talk about building leadership competencies. Most leadership competencies, people think, oh, I'm stepping into leadership, I'm leading other people. No. Yeah. You are getting so good at leading yourself that the way that you lead other people often is actually based on who you're being, not what you're doing.
Say it again. Say it again for the people that back in the bus. Say it again. Say it again.
It's like I, as a leader, you will learn more about who I am being than what I am doing about leadership. It's managing my internal stuff.
Love it.
And that is actually what is challenging for a leader, right? Like I am having to go to every single one of my leaders and say, and pull out all of it, right? It's the things that are below the line, the things that are above the line, supporting them and relating to it differently, supporting them and, gleaning the wisdom that their life experience or the conflict that they've just had is teaching them. And then sending them out to be like, okay, great. I trust that you know how to repair this or how to move forward. And if you don't, now let me teach you.
Who wants to sign up for Syd to be their people manager? Syd, can you please be my people manager? Yes, please.
Well, and this is how truly, like in the past, I would say a year, 2.5 years, 3 years, every single leadership workshop for my region, at least for the Houston region, so it's a lot of employees, I have had a hand in developing that content. So that's also part of my role at Lululemon. And I know we've moved from like athletics and to Lululemon, like all over the place. So apologies to the listeners. I probably left you with a lot of unfinished stories, but we'll keep going.
We're going with the flow. We're going with the infinity loops. I love it. It's all good.
Exactly. So I've been involved in really developing a lot of that content, which is also part of my role at Lululemon. Part of my role is as a leadership and delivery consultant, in addition to being a coach. And that is one of the things that has been the most impactful for the leaders that I've led that haven't gotten a chance to work for me every day, is I will share with them, it's all self-leadership all the time. And then what will you do once you have gotten yourself to a place where you can powerfully lead, where you can be the person that does what they say they're going to do. And how does that person communicate? How does that person, lead the floor? How does that person lead a workshop? That is really, truly where a lot of that gets to evolve and glow. And I think that's the type of work. That's why I've stayed in people leadership. And it truly has been the work that has changed my life, because all of the things that I'm able to do internally, and all of the management that I'm able to do internally actually changes the lives of other people. And I watch how it changes their life every day. And it's work worth doing.
Is it ever? And you've got to talk around this. Is that right?
Yes, actually I do. Yeah, I'm actually in the process of developing my keynote right now. And it really starts with, again, this idea of how we lead ourselves, and then moves that to how we use feedback as a relational skill.
Okay, talk to us about how we use feedback as a relational skill. And in the context of right relationship, feedback is such an important part of the puzzle. So
yes.
Yeah. So give us that.
Yeah. Absolutely. So a couple things. Well, I'm just going to really quickly reference the study that actually got me on this really beautiful train. There is a study by Deloitte that talks about the feedback monsters. And what it highlights is, and I can send you that article, Christy, so you can link it.
Put it in the show notes. Great. Thank you. Yeah.
What it breaks down are the most important components of feedback. And there's 4, but often people will say, like, what I said and how I said it is the most important thing. And that's actually not true. What is the 2 most important components? Number 1 is if I have feedback to give you, Christy, the most important components are how I feel about you and how I have modeled who you are in my internal world.
Wow.
And how you've modeled me in yours.
Oh.
That is how the feedback will land. So even if I totally blow it and you and I have a great relationship and you have a positive model of me in your head, you'll give me the benefit of the doubt. It'll probably land, even if I totally maybe not if I totally botch it, but even if I have hiccups in the conversation, or maybe I, come in hot and heavy and I'm, really riled up about something, that will shift the way that a conversation goes if you have a positive model of who I am and what I stand for in your head. And so when we talk about designing an alliance and really being in a place of being designers of our life, I'm in constant design of the relationships that I have, because that actually is going to benefit me if I ever have to have a hard conversation. Not in a manipulative, I'm trying to get you on my side sort of way, but in a, how do I want to experience relationships and connection with other people? Who do I have to be in order to experience relationships as reciprocal and gracious and spacious? Okay, who am I being in that? And so in those conversations, that's really what I'm teaching is like, okay, great. How do I manage my stuff? And then how do I support you in managing yours, so that even if you don't like me, so even if we do not have a connection that is hopefully it's net positive, but maybe you could take me or leave me, right? Maybe I'm not your favorite person. I'm just sort of somebody who you work with. Then we can at least engage in a dynamic that is productive, that ultimately is net positive, and that can benefit the working relationship that we have and the organization that we're a part of, et cetera, et cetera.
So if I'm aware that I might be holding somebody in not a net positive, I know I see a pattern with a particular individual.
Yeah.
What can I do to start to shift my mindset so that when I am in those types of conversations with this person, the feedback is received in a more positive light?
Great question. 2 things. The first that I tell this to clients and I'll tell this to my leaders, is when you are engaging in a relational dynamic with anyone, there's 2 things that can be happening at any given. There's obviously way more than that, but there's 2 things that'll have you hold and balance. The first is, I have an idea who this person is. I've engaged with them in certain ways before. I may have an idea of how this will go. Right? So if it goes that way, I'm not going to choose to get dysregulated because I have an idea of how it might go. So that's that one piece. The boundary that you set is balancing that in a very neutral way with, and I'm also going to hold this person as doing something different to where they actually might surprise me. And both of those things, by being able to say, I have an idea of how this will go, and I'm open that it will go differently and that it will go great, that allows me to set my own expectations and set my own, I guess, my barometer for regulation so that I can be okay with the outcome of the conversation and I can be with whatever comes that may be difficult. The second thing is, and this is more in theory than something that's tactical, but I'm going to offer it anyway. I would rather live in a world where people are capable of change than where people are static. And so I have to, and this is sort of related to this idea of I'm going to hold this person as capable of change.
Yeah.
And I'm also going to say that. So like when we think of tactically how we approach the conversation, I'm going to say, hey, Christy, I feel like I've tried to have this conversation with you before, and I have a narrative that I don't think it's going to go well.
Yes.
And what I really want is for this to be a place where we can actually get better at communicating and have a better working relationship. That is my goal when we walk out of this conversation. What do you think? And by leading with what I hold as like what I'm holding is, this is the most important thing to me. It's not my ego. It's not getting one in. It's not being right. It's, I am saying to you that I want our relationship to improve, potentially. I want our relationship to be more easeful. I want our relationship to be more dynamic and, whatever it is that we both symbiotic, you could say.
Yeah, collaborative.
Synergistic.
Yeah,
collaborative, synergistic, all of that.
Yeah.
That is what I'm holding this conversation, and that has to be more important than any of my stuff.
Yeah. I love
by
this.
managing.
This is awesome. This is so good. This is the next frontier of feedback. Like
exactly,
most definitely.
Well, and then I think of like how I say this to my partner, right? So like feedback for me when I'm receiving it at work, easy. Because I'm not taking it personally.
100%. So much easier in work.
I have practiced not taking it personally.
Yep.
Cut and dry.
Yep.
I got it.
We've all been in the workshop.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I can even say, well, you know what? You're right. I totally missed that.
Yes.
I missed that mark. I missed that deadline.
Yep.
You're right.
Easier to take
Here's what I'm
responsibility.
doing. Super easy.
Yes.
I get to my romantic relationship with my wife, and it's like, oh no, because I really care what she thinks of me. I want to look good in this relationship, in this dynamic.
Yes.
And so that's the example of what we talk about of like, when I'm thinking of like the net, how do I think of my wife, Katie? And how do I think she thinks of me? So it's also part of that too. So it's like, okay, like what do I think of her? What does she think of me? What do I think she thinks of me? What does she think I think of her? Oh no, there are actually 4 dynamics technically in the room.
Yes.
And we don't even get to what's actually said. No. We don't even get to how you actually say it.
No, this is brilliant. And this, I am the whole time, thank you. I'm getting some really great learnings here. And because I think in my relationship, my romantic relationship, it's the same thing. Like at work, I can do this all day, every day, specifically because we work with people who have had the training and can do these things. And,
totally.
We're all like so committed to this. And even maybe some of our organizational clients that maybe haven't done the training, but they're like, we can do it. But in those romantic partnerships, or maybe for folks with like family or roommates, where it's just
exactly
the stakes feel higher. It's so vulnerable. And I will also say that I part of me, and maybe because we have lots of coaches and people who are in this line of work listening.
Yeah.
When I'm like at home, like I'm at home working from home, but like sometimes I want to break from this level of consciousness that we hold all day. And I want to be like, like just lazy or sloppy and not like on a model, doing the thing, designing the, like, do you know what I mean?
Correct.
But yet these are the people that deserve the attention the most, because these are like, I mean, these are the people making it possible for us to go do our work in the world. And,
Correct.
and
Absolutely.
they're the, where we're practicing. So yeah, give us some wisdom around that, please.
Oh God. I don't know if I have any. What I'll share is, and this is really the thing that I think has been so transformational about being a coach, Christy, is being a coach taught me how to manage all of the things that are going on in my own head, to hold someone else's experience as equal to mine. And that felt impossible before I was a coach.
100%. Yes.
Really being able to say, ooh, I'm holding this as not only like equal, but like just as important, just as valid, just as real. And that at work, it's this. You're right. The stakes are as high, but home, really, what I shared with my partner is the magic of our relationship will go away if we do not protect this part, and if we are not committed to this part. What makes it special will disappear. And that's really it's the same concept of like, what is it that I really want out of this conversation? Like, I have to hold what I really want and remind myself constantly of what I really want. And I want a deeply soulful, resonant, reciprocal relationship with the person that I chose to spend the rest of my life with. And so that means sometimes that I'll go apologize before I feel ready. Or that I'll say, I don't get it, and and I just need a minute. Because this is important to me, and I have the skill set to hold your experience as equal to mine. And I actually can't right now. I don't have it right now. And I want you to know that, because this is actually in service of what we have agreed that this relationship will be. And that truly has, and the other thing too, is using the conflict as a means to be more connected, as an access point for connection, rather than an excuse to be disconnected, is like, has fully changed the way that we have regarded one another. And truthfully, there hasn't been a whole lot of conflict in my relationship. We came in very aligned. So like that, I think also
that helps.
Really does help. And I had some bumps and bruises in relationships, as you do when you are figuring things out and dating and all of those things. But it is really where the commitment lives, at least in my relationships, all of them, is that I know that I want them to be reciprocal and resonant. And in the partnership with my wife, that is how that lands. And it's work worth doing. And it's certainly worth, like, the person that I get to be and the partner that I get to be, when I get to lean into those skill sets, actually reminds me why I'm doing it in the first place. And so it all sort of
comes back to
each other.
It does.
It's that infinity loop that you shared at the beginning.
Yeah, it is.
It's a constant infinity loop.
It's a constant. And that's the experience of right relationship, the recovery, the repair, the moments of, oh, we did so great, and no, I did so not so great, and just the constant. So tell us where people can find you to book you for this talk and learn more about this incredible work that you're evolving. And we'll put this all in the show notes, but give us the high level.
Give us the juice. I am in the works of building my TikTok right now. So I am sydspeaks.co on TikTok, Syd.speaks on Instagram. You can also find and book with me on www.sydspeaks.com. Or message me directly at Syd@sydspeaks.com as well. That's my email. And truly, what I'm open for right now, which is really cool that I'm, on this podcast with you today, Christy, is I actually am onboarding like a full fleet of new clients. I had to do some offboarding a couple of years ago to make sure I was acclimated to this role that I'm currently in. But I'm really excited both to take on both enterprise and one-on-one clients and teams if that's what's aligned. So excited to build that roster back up.
I'm so excited for people to
it's been
connect
great.
with you, to learn from
it's been
you,
great.
to receive this incredible wisdom and lived experience. Not
Yeah.
just through your leadership work and your work at Lululemon and before that, but your work in sports like this. It was so
Yeah.
cool to hear how a lot of this kind of formed. It sounds like growing up in your household, there were some
Yeah.
really great models of this work
Yes.
that you're doing. So if you were going to have like a final word for our listeners around the context of right relationship, feedback, leadership, coaching, and all that we went into today, what do you want to leave us with, Syd?
I'm going to echo the sentiment that I brought in, and within my elevator pitch. I think one of the kindest, most radical things that we can do for each other is to believe that we can change the world one conversation at a time. And when that conversation starts with ourselves, when we care enough about who we are being and the way that we interact with other people, just the thought and the hope and the vision of what the world could be with a world full of people like that is worth believing in. And it doesn't have to be this grandiose thing. It can be a daily movement and the daily decisions that we make to come back and reconnect again and again.
And it can be with the people we're living with, sharing spaces with, as well as the people we work with. We can be holding that vision. Thank you, Syd. You are such a beautiful, aligned, powerful example of this work. And I'm grateful to know you. Thank you for sharing your wisdom with us today.
Absolutely. Such a pleasure to be here. And thanks so much.